It is Thursday, and that means it's time for Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. She's here to break down the week's political headlines as we move into Christmas. Good morning, Caroline. The two seem juxtaposition, don't they? Oxymorons. Merry Christmas and politics.
Yes.
My sentiments, yes, exactly. Never a dull moment. All right, let's get going. It is a Merry Christmas to us all, but there's a big preparation during the pandemic, obviously, for President Biden to not alienate Senator Joe Manchin after he struck down that Build Back Better bill. It's a big blow to the president's agenda at the end of the year. Where do we go from here, if anywhere?
Well, I think Biden has a few options. One is he could get some of these retiring Republican senators on board, especially since many of them are retiring because the party's pushing them out. They're too moderate. He could also chunk it into smaller pieces. If you recall, Senator Manchin opposes this bill because of the child tax credit primarily and environmental regulations. And so he might break it into smaller pieces and get some of those passed, or simply take those pieces out of the bill. So it's not entirely dead.
So Joe Manchin made this announcement to not back the bill on Fox News, which was brow-raising for Democrats. Top-ranking Republicans are praising him and his no vote. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell even dangling the chairmanship of the Energy Commission to get him to switch parties. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, Joe Manchin is the last Democrat in West Virginia. This is a state that went 69% for Trump in 2020. I think it's a miracle that there is a Democrat in West Virginia, and by and large, he votes with the Democratic Party. But if you might recall back to the stimulus plan, what he typically does is he pulls the Democratic Party to the center. So, for example, there were unemployment benefits set at $400. He whittled it down to $300. That's the role he plays in the Democratic Party, and he has an awful lot of power there, and he would not have that power were he a Republican. So I actually do not think he is incentivized to flip parties.
So he's not just facing the blowback from progressives. Coal Miners Union, which stands to lose benefits, came out strong rebuking his no vote, pressuring him to revisit and help pass the BBB. This union was the original reason Manchin said he opposed the bill. So this, as Forbes says, West Virginians need the child tax credit as a crucial lifeline. Is there enough pressure from his constituents to get him to, come back and do something different here?
It's possible, certainly if the union is on board, especially the union that he said that he was helping initially. Also important to keep in mind, West Virginians receive, a greater percentage of them receive government benefits than any other state in the union. The Build Back Better bill would really help his constituents. So if folks in the state can do a good job of communicating that message and put pressure on Joe Manchin, he may have to come back to the table at some point.
So many Democrats have been hard on the president for not fighting for democracy enough. And he now says he's willing to look at the filibuster to pass voting rights. Could this be the Christmas present the Democrats have been hoping for?
Well, I'll say once again, Joe Manchin is standing in the way of that. I don't think there is any possibility that he is going to go for that. Robert Byrd, who was his mentor, really believed in the filibuster as a tool for bipartisanship, which is actually the original reason it was put in place. Of course, now it's being abused in quite the opposite manner. But I think Joe Manchin will stand in the way of that. It's an interesting shift if Biden gets on board, but he would probably have to get a Republican to support that as well.
So former President Trump is holding a press conference on January 6th, a year after the attack he is accused of instigating. He's likely to espouse more election lies. Should the networks cover this or not?
I don't think any major network or minor network should be covering anything where they know the big lie is going to be put out into the public discourse. The whole point of this event is to erode our faith in democracy. This is a very careful plan. If you look at how democracies fall, this is a major part of that. The messaging that you simply can't trust your elections, and therefore will engage in all sorts of untoward activities, for example, a violent insurrection, because it's justified because of the big lie. So do I think networks should cover it? Absolutely not. In fact, I think that media should do a much better job instead of the kind of both-siderism where they try to give both sides playtime. You don't give airtime to a party or a group that is trying to erode your democracy in broad daylight.
Like it's not just right and left, it's right and wrong in your estimation. The most alarming story, Caroline, to me this past week in the Washington Post op-ed, retired Brigadier General Stephen Anderson and retired Major General Paul Eaton and Antonio Taguba issuing this warning to the American people that extremists in the military could be poised to engage if another insurrection is attempted. What do you glean from that warning?
Well, it's coming from the highest levels, folks who know. They point to the fact that 1 in 10 folks who have been picked up by law enforcement officials regarding the violent insurrection had a military record. We just had a Proud Boy who pled guilty with a military record. I think it's important to note that the military actually allows its members to be part of extremist organizations. You just can't be an active member. So obviously the military needs to do a much better job of addressing this. As these brigadier generals and others pointed out, if the military chain of command breaks apart, that would be the first step toward a civil war. And that was how dire their warning was. So I'm going to take that from the experts, from the folks at the top.
Yeah, it's just chilling. All right, my last question, the biggest of the day. Here we go. The commander in leash. Is this the biggest, best Christmas present the Bidens can give the White House?
It's amazing. They've got a new puppy. I will also point out for cat lovers that there's a cat coming into the White House. So we've got everybody covered.
That's Commander. Well, Caroline Heldman, thank you so much. We're, closing out the year here, and politically, you've just been so on top of it for us all year long, and we thank you so much for your insight. It's an unprecedented, uncharted era we're in politically, so I thank you so much and wish you the very best for the holidays.
Thank you, Giselle. Happy holidays.
You too, my friend, and happy, happy New Year. And as we head out to break, you're looking at a rainy, gloomy shot of Manhattan Beach. But as you can see, we've got surfers in the water. Nothing can stop them, not on a Thursday before Christmas. Make it a good one. Stay safe out there, everyone. We'll be right back.